Hey everybody, Isaiah Colton here, and welcome back to our podcast, Renegade CEO, where I bring on professionals and entrepreneurs to share their story on how they went from pro to entrepreneur and CEO. And we largely, if you listen to my podcast, you hear me say this a lot. It's a totally different set of skill sets of what it takes to be a producer or top producer, to be a team leader or a coach or an influencer, or being able to influence people and lead people. And today I'm really excited to have Ashley as our guest on our podcast, because she brings a totally different dynamic to the real estate industry that I think is really much needed, with her target audience being introverts. And one of the things that I love just talking to Ashley off camera is how much I believe that this is needed for our industry, because people come from all different backgrounds, walks of life when they get involved in real estate, and sometimes they're reinventing themselves in a lot of ways. They're learning a lot of new skill sets, and if you're naturally a little bit more introverted, I think there's a misconception in the marketplace that introverts are not top producers, or can't be top producers, or are going to struggle, and I believe that to be furthest from the truth. In fact, what I've experienced, and the people that I've seen in my community, is that an introvert can actually be a tremendous force for in real estate or in business in general, because a lot of introverts, put in the right system and environment, a lot like Ashley's created in her community, when they can feel comfortable and plug into a system that they can thrive in, they gain trust faster and more effective than almost anybody else on the planet. And so I'm excited to talk about this topic. And for all of you extroverts, or people that may be thinking like, should I listen to this podcast? Is this podcast for me? 100% of you'd be crazy not to dive into this podcast, is because a lot of us have strengths and weaknesses. We can all learn from each other. And I know I'm excited about this conversation. I'm going to be taking notes and listening very carefully as Ashley kind of tells her story. And Ashley, I kind of want to start off by just say thank you for joining the podcast. Really excited to have you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
And I appreciate that. And Ashley, I want to just go way back, okay? And I want to capture your story, because before we kind of get into your mission and how you got to where you are, like what led to that, did you ever see yourself in real estate? Like, what was that like? Just tell me a little bit of background on why real estate? Like, why did you say, you know what, I'm going to be in real estate?
I did always think I would be in real estate.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't know what it entailed. I had no idea what it was, but I remember I've shared this story on other shows before. I remember being a child and sitting and watching the TV, and there was a TV channel. We didn't have HGTV, I'm too old for that. There was a channel that would take the newspaper clippings of listings and just show them one after another on repeat. And so I would sit there mesmerized as a little kid, like 6, 7 years old, and watch them, and it would always start from the most expensive to the least expensive. So I'd sit there and wait for it to restart so I could see the most expensive homes. And then I would sit there and I'm like, well, how come this one is more expensive, but it's smaller and it has fewer bedrooms? And I'm sitting there trying to digest this as a child.
That's great. You're like one in a million
I
children.
know.
I love that.
It was so weird. So real estate has always been in the back of my mind. But again, I had no idea. I just liked the houses and the concepts and the numbers, and I had no idea what actually was involved in that until I was in a place in my life when I could afford to go get my license and not have a steady income for a while.
Yeah, and so like, what was that tipping point where you decided to get your license?
I was working at Neiman Marcus,
Okay.
and I was getting a little frustrated by the lack of opportunity. 6 months into my job there in the customer service department, I went to my boss and I said, I need a promotion and a raise and
How
more
did that go?
responsibility, or I'm leaving.
Right.
He was like, well, the only promotion you can have is my job, so you have to wait for me to leave. And I said, well, this other department has somebody who's in between the manager and the people, and I'm like, make that position for me. And so he did. And then I lasted 2 years in that. And I'm like, okay, what's next? Nothing was next. So
Yeah.
I said, all right,
Yeah,
now's the time to get
can't have
in.
my job yet, right? I love that.
So I always
Uh,
had that entrepreneurial bug and wanted to do more and earn more. And finally, I just got fed up with the corporate world or the retail corporate world. And it was time to get into real estate.
nice. And so, what was that experience like for you personally? Because everyone's experience is different when they get involved in real estate. But talk to me a little bit about what that experience was like the first year, second year, etc. Was it what you thought it was going to be? What were some of the emotions that you went through? All that fun stuff.
It was so hard. It was so hard. Getting the license was easy,
Yeah.
but finding clients and the lead gen piece and learning everything, it was what I wanted, which is a challenge. It was a
Yeah.
challenge.
You got a challenge. You got what
Yeah,
you want
not a challenge.
and more.
And
Yeah.
I didn't, I'm in the Boston area and I didn't grow up here. So it wasn't as easy as, oh, just call everyone you went to high school and college
Right.
with.
Right.
And no, I
Oh,
had to go,
I don't have a sphere. Yeah.
I don't have a sphere locally. So I had to go build that. So it took longer. Um, and I got into training, I did all the right things, and I just was not seeing the results that my colleagues were seeing. And so I went into this mental spiral of what is wrong with me? Maybe
Mm,
I'm not cut out for this.
mm,
Why am I so tired and burnt out all the time? Because I don't really have clients. And so my first year, I only sold one house and I was in it full time. I was like in the office making calls, doing things
wow.
every day. So it was really hard. And eventually I did work my way up to becoming a top producer in the office and got all the accolades and stuff. But
That's
so I
awesome.
made it work, but it took time. And I would have gotten there faster if,
How many times did you want to quit? And
every day.
what kept you going like during that like first year?
I was thankful to be with a very good office that gave me
Mm,
a lot of support. So, but that's part of why I went into the office most days because if I was just at home, I probably would have quit.
wow. Yeah, there's something to that, especially in the post-COVID era where there's not as many people going into the office and I think there's a really powerful lesson there is you knew what you needed to do to be motivated or to put yourself in an environment to keep going and to stay focused. I think there's a lot of power in that. Um, I think a lot of people, if they're more self-aware, they put themselves in the right environment. That's the key. That's what I heard. You like, if it wasn't for the environment that you put yourself in and kept yourself in, you might not be influencing hundreds of thousands of people on your platform today. Is what I heard. So that's
Yeah,
really cool.
absolutely. And my why
Yeah,
was big enough too. That pulled me through. I knew the end goal, or I thought I knew the end goal. And so that kept me going.
yeah, that's huge. I know a lot of people know a lot of people that talk about the why and they train on that, but I find that a lot. I find that at least from my personal experience is that if like as conscious as they are of how important it is they don't really if they don't really attach something that's really meaningful, it's kind of like a bullshit exercise. It's
Yeah.
like okay, like is that strong enough to motivate you? So if you don't mind sharing, like what was your why? What was strong enough to keep you going? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Maybe it's
No, it's
personal.
okay. It's hard to put into words because it's not a real tangible thing. It was more just that feeling of I've made it. And I think part of it was my ego and just wanting to feel like, no, I quit my job. I'm doing this. I'm going to make it work.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's interesting that you say that because I've also seen a pattern of everyone that I've interviewed that's been successful. A lot of times it's not not always a tangible thing. It's something on a deeper emotional level. It's really interesting. Like for me, my why is I was more afraid. My why is still is the same today. Whenever I choose to do something, or like what I'm choosing to do is like my biggest fear is not living up to what I think my potential is. Like look like it irks me and it motivates me. And my secondary to that, my biggest fear was, and my personal why was not growing up in the financial situation that I was brought up in. But
Mhm.
it wasn't necessarily a physical thing. It was the feeling of it. It was like the feeling of not being able to buy a new piece of clothing, right? Like when I wanted it, like the feeling of having to use and like or having to have the old baseball glove, like so like. I think it's powerful when we can tap into the feelings of the why. I guess is what I'm trying to say. So,
It
would you agree
is.
with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all tied to emotion.
Yeah, yeah. It's the big driver. So year one, you fast forward, you became a top producer, and then sounds like what happened in your job. You said what's next, right? It's like okay, so like I've mastered this top producer thing. So like what's next? Is that what was going on in your head?
That's exactly what happened, and it was my coach at the time who was asking me that question.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
cool. So what was going on? How did that conversation play out, and then how did you get to the point of really being passionate about coaching introverts?
Well, it happened very quickly. My coach, I remember distinctly having this conversation with him, and we had been talking about me building a team. He wasn't pushing that, but that's kind of the natural step for a lot of top producers. And he said, "Well, do you want to build a team? I said, absolutely not. I have zero interest in that. I don't want to manage people. I knew that that would be a huge energy suck for me, and it just wouldn't be worth all the headaches.
Right.
So I know that the stars can align, and there are great teams out there that run very successfully. That was not my path, and I knew that. So I thought about what I enjoyed doing, and what I really enjoyed doing was teaching classes in my office and helping other agents and being a mentor. And I said, I want to help other agents who are struggling. And he said, okay, great. Everyone is a coach. That's nice. What could you do differently? Or who could you help that's not being helped right now? And
Ooh,
immediately I thought of my fellow introverts. So that's where this
wow.
all started.
That's cool. Sounds like you had a good coach.
I did. Yeah. He's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's really cool. Okay. And then the wheels start spinning. And talk to us a little bit about your platform then, or like the beginnings of it, because it probably looks different now than what it did. So,
Yeah.
because I know mine did when I first started. So just walk us through kind of the evolution, so to speak, of your platform.
Yeah. Well, it started as one 60-minute class, which I still teach. I taught it a couple days ago on Zoom. And the class is how to be a successful agent as an introvert.
Cool.
So it started as that. I ran around New England. I taught it for free. I can't do that anymore. I do charge for it. Um, but it was just that. It was this one little class, and I started building my name and my reputation. And now it looks like it's evolved a lot. I've tried and failed a lot of different things. And right now it looks like a Facebook group, group coaching, some one on one business planning. I still teach classes and I speak on stages at real estate conferences. So I enjoy, oh, and my book just came out. So that's
Oh,
exciting.
nice. Can we go to
Yeah.
Amazon to get your book? And
Yes, you can.
awesome. What's the name of it?
It's called Move Over Extroverts.
Oh, I love it. So yeah,
No
so
offense.
if you're listening, to make sure you go check out her book, Move Over Extroverts. I love that,
Yeah.
and definitely get her book. I'm gonna do that myself. I'm looking forward to going through that book. So
Thanks.
if you and we'll get back to the book in a second because I got a couple questions about the book. But before I go there, one of the talk to me about like and maybe we can actually walk through some of the content of the book as well. But one of the things that my first question to you is foundationally, what do you tell an introvert that or like how do you work with an introvert that's struggling?
There are a lot of things they could be struggling with, but at its core, what I see most often is my fellow introverts are struggling with mindset
Mm,
and feeling it's a couple different facets. It's feeling guilty about if they're not cold calling, because
mm.
that is still very much in the real estate training world, is this big push to be cold calling, which by the way does work and is a great strategy. However, it's not the
Absolutely.
only strategy.
I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit here, if that's
Yeah.
okay. I can't stand when I hear coaching, and this is from a fellow person. I made most of my income cold calling. As a coach, a trainer. I can't stand when there's a coaching platform that does not teach people to work towards their God-given strengths, because
Yeah.
it's like it's one of my pet peeves when people say like, "Oh, yeah, this is how you got to get business. This is the way to do it." I'm like, "Well, maybe that worked for you, but there's a lot of factors on why that works for you, you know?" So yeah, that's huge. Like that cold calling is not the only way. So let's talk about like how do you get them to overcome that mindset, and what does that look like as far as if they're not going to do, cold outreach, right? Or cold calling. What do you how do you get them, get them in the right mindset, and what's the alternative plan that you suggest?
So I 100% agree with you. There's no one size fits all plan. What I usually advise people is to start with where are you already spending time around other humans in your
Mm,
day-to-day life? Because this is a people business. There's no getting around that. So for us introverts, we have to really be cognizant of how we're spending our time and our energy and to get the highest return. So why not start with all the other facets of your life, social life, if you have kids in school, church, wherever you're seeing people, like turn that into lead gen. And I know it sounds kind of simplistic, but that's usually the advice I start with. And then if somebody needs to add in more, then we can talk through other strategies that are more introvert friendly. Like me, I'm sending out like 100 letters today
love
to old
that.
expireds
Love
because
that.
I'm not going to call them,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'll mail them a letter.
I love that. Yeah. And there's like, and I love that. The reason why I like that so much, first of all, there's a trend in direct mail right now that because less people are doing it, and um, less people are picking up the phone now. So if you get a really good, direct mail pattern, the conversion I think is you can be very successful if you're very consistent if you're consistent with it, right? And um, the thing that I have a question with, and this is some of the things that I struggle with even as a coach, is having that breakthrough from a mindset standpoint. Because like there are some introverts or just people in general, they don't want to talk to people they know. They don't want to talk to people they network with. And so
Mm-hmm.
what I find it one of the things that I talk about, and I'm curious to see your angle on it, is like there's really four core lead generation strategies. You have cold outreach, your network, right? People that you know, posting on social media, and like paid ads. And you could put in there like open houses and maybe events, right? But like, so when somebody's struggling, like talk like when you have an introvert struggling with what one to pick, how do you get through that mental barrier?
Well, if they don't want to talk to people they already know, that's fine. There are so many other ways. I actually have a list, I have a PDF of like 80 something odd ways to find business. So if they're really struggling and can't think of anything, I'll send them that list and I'll be like, pick a couple that you can commit to sticking with for a while. Because the fact is, the more an agent enjoys their lead gen strategy, the more consistent they're going to be and the more results they're going to have. And then they're going to like it more because it's working.
That's powerful. Yeah, that's powerful. So yeah, like, is that associated with your book? Could they find
Yeah.
that PDF if they get your book? Is it somewhere in there or a link to it?
Yeah, there's a link to it. It's there's a bonus section with some downloads.
Okay, I love that. I love that. So another reason to go get her books, if you're listening right now, maybe just pause this for a second and go get the book before you forget. I think it's another great reason to pick up that book. So let's talk a little bit about the book then, and what inspired this book.
It's always been in my plan to write this book ever since I started this other company, this coaching company. It was a matter of timing and finding the bandwidth. And at the beginning of 2024, because I'm very tuned into my energy and because I've been teaching it for so many years, I'm pretty good at knowing how I'm spending it, where I'm spending it, what's going to give me the highest return. So every year I thought, is this the year for the book? And it wasn't. And then 2024 came along in January, and I was like, this is the year for the book.
Wow, good for you. Good for you. I wish I would. I have trouble with that actually. Personally, I have trouble with paying attention to my energy because I tend to uh, I tend to I tend to I tend to go 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 and not pay attention to that. And I've actually tried doing. I've actually done a book when it was the right timing, and I've also done a book when I forced it.
Mm,
It was really interesting experience the difference because of the focus, the energy, the creativity that has to go into it. So I think there's such
yeah.
good wisdom in paying attention to your energy and whatever you're doing there. But a book can be a book can be a nightmare to do if you don't have the right mindset towards it, or if you're not in the right like you mentioned that word energy that has to go into it. So why 2024, and like why did you know how did you know it was the moment to do the book?
I had been pouring in a lot to my office. I was in a position where I was on staff as a full-time coach, and I did have my other projects happening that were mine, but I just had kind of a need for more of my own projects. I wanted something that at the end of the year I could look back and feel very accomplished,
Oh, that's
that
cool.
was within my control. And so thankfully I happened to see I started putting the feelers out for a publisher or an agent or something. I found out that my audience is way too small for any major publisher to be
Yeah.
interested in. So I found a little indie baby publisher and they took me under their wing and we made it
I
happen.
love that. That's
It took a
awesome.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a process, that's for sure. There's no doubt about it. The book. So what do you hope that when somebody reads your book, like what would your like hope be that they achieve or accomplish after they're done reading it?
Mm. So I want everyone who reads the book to feel a sigh of relief and then a jolt of, okay, I can do this. And I have some of the tools to do this well. The book won't give everyone everything they need because it's just a book, but it'll at least provide some reassurance that everyone, no matter their personality type, can be successful in this business as an agent if they want to be. And
Mm,
here are some tools to do that. So it's kind of a legacy piece for me. It
yeah.
can reach more people than I can one on one.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and so like what did you do in the book to reinforce that feeling? Like how did you structure it? Like what's walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, so it's broken into sections and then very short chapters. So somebody could skip around if they wanted to.
Mm,
And the sections are energy management, starts with that, translates into time management, and then we talk about different lead gen strategies. And then we talk about the contract to close process
mm,
and some of the facets of actually doing the work as an agent and how that works for an introvert, like showings and open houses. Like, how do you do that successfully and don't burn yourself out when you're around all these people all the time?
that's good. I'd love to hear. I'd love to dive into that part real quick if you can. What are some of the
Yeah.
ideas and strategies around not burning out?
The biggest thing, it goes back to that energy management piece. It really
Right,
does.
right. So that's why
So,
you start off with the That's why you start off with the
yeah.
energy first, and then the time management, and then
Right.
right. Okay. So
Yeah.
how does one manage their energy?
Starts with awareness. So, knowing what activities are going to be draining and what activities are going to be replenishing. And not just activities, but also people. like
Mm.
which people are draining and which, and no judgment, no
Right.
judgment. It's just awareness.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is what it is. And so I walk people through a couple exercises where they make different lists of things that are draining, things that are recharging their energy, and then looking at your calendar and saying, okay, if I have a full day worth of peopling, is it
Oh, I like
smart
that.
to,
I like that.
yeah, if I have a full day of peopling and I'm an introvert, is it smart to have a listing appointment right after that? Or do I maybe want to push that to another day? Or if that's the day the seller can do it, maybe I clear my schedule right before for a couple hours and do something to recharge my energy first.
That's wise. That's really good. Yeah, I found that I used to kind of like just put as many appointments on my calendar and kind of like whenever other people wanted to do them. I'm a lot more selective with where I let people into my calendar. For that reason, is because if I find that uh, given where I'm at in my entrepreneurial journey, that if I don't protect certain parts of my day for either focus or strategy or things that I need to get done, and I stack too many meetings one day, it could throw my whole week off and everything else that I want to accomplish. And um, and I like how you wrap that around energy. So is that kind of what you're referring to? Is just really paying attention to your calendar, like and like what types of energy, if I'm hearing you right, like what types of energy and output and that need to happen in that day so you stay balanced. Is
Yeah,
that kind of what you're suggesting?
it is
Right.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And how about like, do you talk about anything like with routine or like maintaining energy or preventing burnout? Do you get into that at all into the book, or is it mainly like wrapped around your calendar, or just knowing yourself is the big thing?
That's the big one. Having a routine is helpful for a lot of people, and also a lot of times the routine gets thrown out the window when
Yes.
life and business happens. So I don't.
True.
It's a tough book to write, and it's tough for me to talk about this in any kind of meaningful way to a mass audience because everyone is so different. That's why I really go hard on the self-awareness because only you can
Right.
determine for sure what's going to work and how your energy flows. And there's
Yeah.
extroverts listening, and you need to be around people. And so
Right.
have to put that in your calendar, my extrovert friends.
Yeah, that's really interesting you say that because I've had a debate about the importance of morning routines and routines in general, and like what time of day that you do things and don't do things, and from like looking at very high level operators to people that are still in production, it's just very different for everybody. To your point, like I know some extremely successful multimillionaires and even billionaires, and they never had a morning routine. Like
Yeah.
they're not going to turn back and say it was my morning routine that made me successful. Like they're not that.
There's a lot of people who say that though.
Yeah, but then there's a ton of people on the other side of it, and I tend to lean towards that camp. Is I am so I'm very much ADHD. I process things extremely fast and quickly, and my mind's always moving, and it can bounce in a million different directions, and it can actually be a superpower for me. It's part of how I'm able to be a serial entrepreneur and have multiple things going on and have it all work in a systematic way. But also, if I'm not careful and I don't have mechanisms in place that it can be extremely draining for me and other people. And so, what I what I found for me is for my routine actually just brings clarity and focus
Mhm.
and focus to my energy compared to where if I don't have that. But then there's also periods of time where uh, there's also periods of time where I say screw my routine and I just want to go to work. Like I just want to get up in the morning. I know what I need to do. Like I'm like ready to go, and I'm just gonna work. I'm just working. Like I don't. It's still planned, right? But I'm not saying there's not reflection, but there's not some complex morning routine that I'm doing. I'm just like, I'm getting up at 6:30 in the morning. I'm working. I'm going to work. And so, how about you? Like, I'm curious as an introvert, like, how do you function on a daily basis? Like, your personal preferences with the morning routine, or just a routine in general.
Sure, sure. And I do think we all naturally have routines. I do think that in general, what I see is when agents, especially newer agents, feel like they have to do something, like you have to have a morning routine because someone said so, then there's a lot of guilt around that, and that guilt does more harm than good. So I'd rather see someone not force a routine, but then naturally find what works for them and make tweaks along the way and just give themselves more grace. So it's more a mindset going into it. That's my popping off about routine.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Um, because it's like on top of all the other habits and skill sets you have to learn or work on, like having to work on a morning like a routine and a new habit of doing like that just adds a whole another layer of energy suck, drain, and stress if you haven't done it. That's really
Right.
interesting. Yeah.
So for me, my routine is I usually get up at 7 and I like to sleep, so I sleep till 7. And then I get ready. Sometimes I go to the gym if I feel like it, which I know is a bad answer, but sometimes I feel like it in the morning.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it in the afternoon, just
Yeah.
depends on the day. And I have been attending this call that happens every morning. It's like a motivational real estate
Oh,
call. It's pretty interesting.
that's cool.
And so I hop on that some mornings. And then about half of the days of the week I work from home, and a few days a week I come into the office. Today I'm in the office, and just this is where the big printer is, and I get the same amount done, but it's nice to be around people, but then it's nice to work from home and not have any commute time. So I don't know, I just find this balance, and every week I'm looking at my calendar ahead of time and saying, how is my day going to play out? Where do I need to schedule breaks? And where do I need to block off time so that I can either have white space to catch up on stuff or just time to rest? And I'm not really talking physical rest, I'm talking more mental rest.
Right. Yeah. That's really interesting how you say that too, because um, yeah, oftentimes we think of rest as like sleeping, but it's more of just what you're focused on, right? Like um, the other the other thing, like when I'm hearing you, is like let's say that the introvert, they got their schedule down, like they figure out what works for them. And like, I'm curious to hear, like, what are some of the patterns of people in your community? Like, what is their plan? What does their schedule look like? How do they usually time block things? Is it similar to yours, or like, just give us some insight there if you don't mind.
I don't mind. It's all different though. And a lot of my agents in my community and in my programs are more referral based and relationship based. So their lead gen time it's a lot of following up, which is important. And
Yeah,
technically that's not lead gen, that's lead follow up. Um, but it's less structured, like okay, I'm going to call people from 8 to 11, and it's more I'm going to text people for a couple hours, or I'm going to post on social media, or I'm going to attend a networking event, or I'm going to plan this client event and then invite everyone. And I don't know, I find a mix of people who have more energy in the morning and some have more energy in the afternoon. I've actually met a couple people who have more energy at night, and they struggle because you can't really be reaching out to people at night, but you can do
yeah,
other things.
yeah.
Like you can
Right.
do all the back end and schedule
Yeah,
your email campaign or do
yeah.
mailers or whatever.
Right. Do some marketing stuff, and get your direct mail campaigns ready or whatever. So
Right.
that's cool.
So it varies a lot.
Interesting.
And I'm always cautious against saying this is what works. So by default, this is what you should quote unquote be doing. There's no should. Just find what works for you, man, and then stick with it and be consistent with it.
Yeah, I think this is what I find too. And how do you get people over this? Is like, well, how do I know this is the like how do I like if I'm not taking the mainstream advice, how do I know I'm doing it? Like, what do I have confident? How do I have confidence in my plan that it's actually going to work if I'm not going to take the mainstream advice? I don't know if you run into that, but I don't know if people say it out loud, but I know a lot of people think about it. Think about that in my community.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the best thing you can do is hire one of us to look over your business plan with you.
Right.
But that's the best way to know. But in general, I think having a combination of it can't just be one strategy. It can't just be one thing. It has to be a couple things, but not too many. I think three, four, maybe somewhere in there. And it can be a combo of things that are proven to work, like reaching out to your sphere and being in touch with them, client events, things
Right.
that you know are going to work, and also things to add to that database. So cold reach outs somehow, not necessarily via the phone,
Yeah.
but through social media or whatever method. So a combination of different things, but it's getting in front of people who are likely to send you business or work with you directly. So I think one of the metrics that agents should be paying attention to is not only am I getting actual clients from this, but am I building a database of people who say, yes, I will absolutely keep my ears open for you and I'll
Mhm.
try to find you some clients. And that's a win in itself.
That is a win. And it's tough, I think, for people to get there, especially if you're years 1 through 3. I think it's hard for people to get there mentally because it's about making sure that they're going to stay in the business uh, and so sometimes it's hard to think about things that are going to lead to transactions 3 to 6 months down the road.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, though, if anyone's listening to this, or if you're in years 1 through 3, that's how you get to be a top producer. Is you're making decisions based on your database and relationships in your database, and if you focus on that and you stay consistent with whatever, to your point, Ashley, whatever that consistency looks like with your sales and marketing plan or your lead gen plan. I I very rarely see anybody after year 2 of staying consistent struggle anymore. And like, and I think that's where the faith, a little bit of the faith comes in. Is like, it's like, well, because in real estate it takes time to see the results. So it's always like it's always interesting to see people that will have the discipline to go from their plan to executing a plan and doing it long enough to actually see the result. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit and how you coach and train to that in the introvert community. That's really intriguing to me.
Yeah, it does take time. And I know I'm making it sound very simple, but it's not easy. None of this is easy,
Right.
especially when you're also learning how to do the business, because that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to learn there. So none of this is easy. I just want to acknowledge that. It does take time, it does take work. I don't know of any lead gen strategy that's completely fun and joyful and stress free all the time.
Yeah.
My point would be if there's an activity that is makes you full of dread and you hate every second of it, maybe that's not the most aligned activity for you. Maybe pick something else, pick a couple other things, and be okay being uncomfortable for a while. Not too long, but for a little while. You go in, you do your thing, it's a little awkward, and then you come out of it and you can go and be on the couch with your cat for a while and just kind of recharge.
I love that.
Uh, but it does take time. It takes a lot of time. I would say if somebody is in that first year, 2 years, one of the best things you can do is find someone in your office who can mentor you
Mm.
and just show you the ropes, and maybe even somebody who is retiring out of the business and can partner with you on a couple deals and then refer you clients. Like that's a huge source of business for a lot of agents as well, other agent referrals.
Yeah, that's really good. I actually have one of my clients. They they're not cold calling. They'll never do it in their life, and it's just not them. But they got really good at networking with other agents too, and
Mhm.
just networking in general, and made friends with an agent, and this individual, she was year two into the business, but made really good friends with this retiring agent, and she ended up working a deal to take over her whole book of business, and from year two to year three, she went from doing like 15, 20 transactions to doing 50
Nice.
because of that relationship. Uh,
Yeah.
and and it's really interesting is now she's getting into other things, and her network is she's doing other forms of marketing, really heavy into social media now, getting pressing into the networking, doing some direct mail, everything but cold calling, but still doing other
Right.
form, but I think it was a great story about how, to your point, when as long as you have a plan, it might not be the mainstream what most people are coaching, but she's a great story to what you're talking about. And and now she started up her own private community, with social, talking mainly about social media and stuff like that. But if you would have listened to people's advice to say, oh well, because I'm an introvert and I don't cold call, I can't succeed. If she would have listened to that, it would have, she'd been gone. So
Yeah. Nothing's further than from the truth. Like there are so many different things that will work with consistency. That's the
yeah,
key.
yeah, yeah. I think I think the human psychology around consistency fascinates me more than like almost than any other topic that I've ever studied. And you look at the people that are able to be consistent, and then the people that struggle with the consistency. And so I think that I'm hoping that what number one, I'm hoping that everybody goes read your book, because I have a feeling they're going to have a breakthrough around this topic if they do. Uh, and but I also think that it goes back to maybe a little bit about what we talked about with the why, the emotions behind that, uh, self self reflection, like you're talking about, paying attention to your energy, and the way that I've found it helpful, and other people, is we kind of develop our own systems, right? So like our own way to step into what we're doing. And I want to kind of maybe end on this a little bit, is like, does motivation come first, or is it you figuring out how to step into what you're doing to then bring motivation, or is it neither one, and more of a cocktail
Mhm.
of things that lead to consistency? So I'd love to hear your point of view and maybe end off there.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of my initial response to that. I feel like it's probably a combination. Motivation isn't something that we just wake up having. It takes work, and I do think that the why piece is really important because that will pull us through doing the activities when we don't feel like it. Like for me, working out, my why is not big enough. It's
Right,
not, and I know that. It's like, no,
right,
I'll do this when I feel like it. But I can't have that in my business. And I
right.
shouldn't have it with my health either. You guys are going to come for me. I know. I realize it.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because I think that's, for me, it's amazing to see how in some areas of my life there's no problem achieving the goal, and then other areas it's like, it's like pushing through to get up, keep getting up, and then for me it was like a specific moment or a breakthrough where that why just became stronger. So I think there's a lot of truth and legitimacy to that. Is like, and and it's fighting through. Sometimes it's fighting through until the why feels strong enough too. It's like, it's being willing to get back up and not beat yourself up because maybe you didn't have the perfect day or the perfect week, perfect month.
Right. None of that exists, by the way. The perfect
No,
anything does not exist.
does
That's a
not
chapter
exist.
in the book, too.
I love that. Right, the perfect daily schedule does not exist. Right,
Does not
like
exist.
there's no such thing.
Perfectionism is a trap.
It's a trap. I love that. That's really great. Yeah, I think that for me too, how I answer that question is you mentioned the word self-awareness quite a bit.
Yeah.
I believe that is the number one, and I actually Harvard did a study on high performers, leaders, and influencers, and the number one characteristic they had over people that weren't able to achieve what they were out to set was self-awareness. It was the
Mm,
number one characteristic that was consistent over any other characteristic in leadership style, high performance, was self-awareness. And
wow.
and it was really interesting to me because all different personalities. They interviewed like 100 of the most successful people, in their various fields, and they all had different personalities. Some were extrovert, some were introvert, but
Mhm.
the ones that were most successful were the ones that taught themselves on how to be self-aware, and they were willing to sit and live with that. And I thought that was really interesting. And I don't know this to be true or not or factual, but if I had to guess, and I'd like to read up on this, I'd have a guess that it's easier for an introvert to be more self-aware. And and correct me if I'm wrong, like I'm just throwing this out there, but I feel like when you're an introvert, you maybe it's nature nurture combination of it, but you're willing to ask yourself questions more of like, hey, is this the best way, or like why is it this way, or like maybe there's a level of intuitiveness where also I think there's a humility, maybe a little bit of a
Mhm.
humility where like if somebody can't admit that they're ever like or question anything. I know a lot of people like in my community, they'll hit a certain their willpower pushes them, but then they have no self-reflection mechanism in place. So they can't ever see, they don't see, they have this massive block that will never allow them to go to the next level because they're not self-aware at all.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't know that that study was done, but it doesn't surprise me at all. I think that sounds completely spot on. Um, for us introverts, we are more internal processors. So I do think it's easier for us to be more self-aware because we're already naturally in our own minds, thinking through things all the time.
Right.
The challenge I see for people in our industry, though, is there's so much pressure and again, the guilt factor around taking time to reflect. And so, even though we know we probably would benefit from doing it, it's rare to find agents who consistently, maybe even, once a quarter, will take time, take a half a day, take a day, take 2 days, and have a little mini retreat and go and reflect. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. For me, I found success doing that on a very micro level. So like I have a progress journal. It sounds corny to a lot of people, but I have a progress journal that I keep, and like I try to update it almost every day, and that helps me be very very self-aware. And I found now that I've gotten the habit of it, when I stop doing it after like 2 weeks, I start getting a little off. Like it's really
Mhm.
interesting. It's really
That's
interesting.
great.
Yeah, my decision making has changed dramatically in a positive way, and also my mood, my how I function, my pace, my resolve. So I think for just kind of throwing that out there for anyone that's listening is that if you're looking for a mechanism to be more self-aware, that's one of the things that I've tried and it's been successful for me. So
Yeah, I love that. I also journal most days,
yeah.
and it's very helpful.
Do you think is that a common theme in your community? Do a lot of people journal in your community? Is that something that you teach or work on?
I do teach it. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, I would love to," and I just don't.
Don't do it.
So,
Yeah. Right.
so
Very
I
cool.
encourage everyone to try it
Try
and
it. Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. If you see it as a chore, like if you see it as a chore, it's never going to get done. It's not going to work. But I find if people do it for 7 to 10 days, a month consistently, they usually get hooked on it. So it usually becomes a really strong pattern in their life.
Yeah. For some people, it's a great tool. For others, it is a chore. And then if it feels too much like a chore, don't do it. It's not worth
Don't
it.
do it. Yeah, it's not worth it. I love that. There's going to be a whole lot of people if they listen to this podcast, they would be like, so basically, you're saying that everything that I teach is like is is bullshit. No,
No.
we're not saying that. What we're saying is that if the conversations have to stop being so black and white in our community. Like they gotta. That's what I believe has to stop. Like it's gotta be a deeper conversation than that because this is what I say, and I challenged this other coach that was on there. We were having a similar conversation, and it was more wrapped around AI and AI and how it's going to affect coaching in the future. My question was to him is like if how and I no insult, but if how you train and coach and how most coaches train and coach over the past 20 years, right, was successful, how come the metrics don't change? How come the metrics aren't changing? And I'm not talking about industry trends. I'm just talking about overall success with agents over the past 20 years. And so that like
Sure.
I'm in the phase right now where I want to challenge everything. I want to challenge everything because if you don't do that, especially with AI in the world and how we see things, and that's why I love your approach, by the way, is because whether somebody agrees or disagrees, if there was a one size fits all, how come it's not working for
Right.
like how come it's not working for more people? And you can debate
Exactly.
on why. That would be a fun conversation I think to have with in a group podcast, right? Um, you know what? Will you get back together with me if I have like a panel of like 4 or 5 people, and I
Oh
want to
yeah.
actually do a podcast around that topic of like,
Yep.
hey, what's going on in our industry and why with all the training, coaching tools, technology, why are more people not successful? I'd love that. I think that'd be really fun
I think
podcast.
that'd be fun too. Count me in.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Uh, so we talked about your book. Anything that you kind of want to leave us with as far as your platform, or maybe how people can find you, and just that maybe anything to kind of wrap up with a little bit of motivation for the introverts listening.
Yeah, thank you. So if you want some community, come join us in the free Facebook group. It's called Introverts in Real Estate. It's very creative. Um, and I would say just look at everything out there, all the tools, all the systems, all the training, and know that it all works. And it might not everything is going to be perfectly aligned for every person. So the game is finding which of the things that are proven to work are also aligned for you as an individual and go hard on those things.
That's really good. Yeah, and I think that goes back to the self-awareness part, right? It's
Yeah.
like what works for you as an individual. Well, I love
And it
that.
does take trial and error too. Like
Yeah,
it's not this thing where you're just going to magically know. You got to try a lot of things.
yeah, I love that. And it can be trial and error can be fun if you think about it like A/B testing, right? It's like
Yeah.
yeah, it can actually be fun if you don't put so much pressure behind it having to be perfect, right? So
Right.
that's great advice. Thank you, Ashley, for being on the podcast today, and I'm looking forward to getting this out to my world. So appreciate your time.
Thank you.